Welcome to Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. This podcast was created for the boomer woman leaving corporate, and now you're looking to reinvent yourself, become an author, an entrepreneur, a podcaster. Well, each episode will leave you with clarity. You will come away with the yes, I can and yes, I will reinvent myself mindset. So come on, let's do this. I'm your host, Margot Levette. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. This week's guest, Nathaniel. I already know I'm going to learn so much from this lady. She is an author, best-selling author, as a matter of fact. She has her BA in business and psychology, and I love it when they put those two together because in my mind, you need to do that when you're dealing with business because it's all about people and it's all about how we act and how we react. So we're going to dig in today with Nathaniel. She's going to talk about emotional business IQ. This is her lane. She is the expert. So welcome, Allie. I'm so glad that you are here.
Thank you so much for having me here, Margot. I'm so excited to be on the show.
Well, when I first met you, you were a publisher, and you're probably still doing that. But the work that you are going to bring to us today, I want to dive right into it. Let everybody understand why we need to understand emotional resiliency. What does that have to do with the workplace? What does that have to do with our families?
Okay, so I'll start by saying that emotional resilience is the ability to adapt to new situations, to crisis, to difficult situations. And I don't need to say much more because we, as humans, we encounter difficult situations, if not on a daily basis, at least once a week, something new that we have to figure out. And if we don't have that resiliency, if we don't have the emotional capacity to talk ourselves into believing that everything will be okay and that we can figure it out, then it's really, really hard. And we all have that capacity. We all can figure out things, but sometimes our thoughts and beliefs are stopping us from being able to do what it is that we need to do or want to achieve.
Wow. You're saying a lot. And this subject comes up at a time when everybody is in a state of change and change is all around us. So it's just like popcorn sometimes, you know? So, Allie, what happens when I look back and my emotional resiliency? What happens to the fact that some people it seems like they get it, they can adapt. Corporate America demands that you are resilient, but it's really not conducive for resiliency. And what happens when you have somebody who really is not adapting? How do you get them up to speed and let them know that this is for your best interest? It's in your best interest that you become resilient. Am I being clear on that?
Yes, so I'll answer if you feel like you need more clarifications or take me into, a different direction in my answer, I'll definitely go there. But the reason people are not able to adapt easily is because of their past. And it's always, always, always about the past. Because as young children, we get hurt all the time, whether it is racism, sexism, all the ism, all the oppression that is out there, and it's a systematic oppression, we get hurt. And it creates behavioral patterns. So that's where we operate from. So let's say you were a young child and your parents never told you they love you. You believe that you're not lovable. And maybe that you're incapable of achieving big things because you didn't have the support you needed. And those are the glasses that you carry around with you everywhere. And that's how you see the world. So new situations are very threatening because of that, because you have to change your thinking pattern and your belief pattern. But if you are not willing to look into your past and to identify, and that's, the first thing in building emotional resilience is to identify your feelings. If you're unable to go back and identify why you feel scared, why you feel as if you can't figure it out, and put your finger on the early experience and notice that whatever happens back then is no longer your reality, even though it feels very real, then it's really hard for you to adapt to new situations because you're still using the mechanism that saved you in a way as a child. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, I can relate to that because you know what, Allie, oh my God, I can relate to that. If you don't resolve and separate yourself from something that a belief or something that happened in your childhood, as an adult, it will stop you from moving forward and doing those things, reaching those plateaus in life that you really are supposed to go to. Is that what I hear you saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because every time you're after a new goal, it is scary because our goals are usually outside of our comfort zone. And the comfort zone is all the patterns, the emotional patterns, the behavioral patterns, and the beliefs that we acquired during the years. That's the comfort zone. That's what we know. Even if it doesn't work for us, that's what we know and it feels safe. So every time you have a new goal or big goal that you're after, you have to get out of that safety. And that's really scary. So you have to do all the, the mental and emotional work and to notice that this is what's happening. This is what's going on right now, and that it's only fear. And fear is something that you can become friend with in a way and move forward. But it takes a lot of work. It sounds easy, but it's not.
So you pretty much need somebody to guide you through. First, identify what's going on, because it seems that emotional IQ is not something that we speak about all the time. We know that we're stuck. I hear that word a lot. I've used it myself, and not knowing why or what to do with it. You pretty much need somebody to guide you along on this path, correct?
Mm-hmm. First, it's always better to have someone with you. No matter where you are, it is better to be with other people and to have, if you have mutual goals, to do things together. Because one of the biggest patterns that we all carry, or the fears that we all carry, is that we're all alone in this world. And although it's not true, and if you look around, you can say, I have this friend and that friend, and this person will do everything for me. For most people, it's really hard to see that you're not alone, because as kids, not all of our needs were met when we needed them to be met. So we feel alone, but it's only a feeling. And that's why you need to be emotionally aware of what you feel.
Okay. So don't stuff those emotions, become aware of them, identify them, stare them down, and identify what's going on.
Exactly. Because ignoring your emotions will not help anything. You're just going to spend so much energy trying to shove it down, trying to ignore them. All the energy that you can put into your new project will go into trying to ignore the feelings, which you will not be able to ignore.
Oh, wow. I can relate to everything that you are saying this day. Oh my God, this is so true. Allie, Nathaniel, what caused you in business, and you put psychology together? What made you really decide I'm going to really hone in on this emotional resiliency. What really turned your attention towards that and become an expert?
Mm-hmm. So it goes back to my childhood, the way I grew up. I grew up in a kibbutz in Israel. Many people probably don't know what it is, so I'll just explain a little bit. It was a small community, less than 300 people, which lived together and shared everything. They shared money, they shared food, and they shared the kids in a way that we grew up without our parents. We grew up in a children's house, and we got to see our parents only 3 hours a day. So as a child who needs their parents, we had to figure out many things. I had to figure out how to survive in a world where adults were not available to assist. And I found myself doing things from that place of feeling alone, of feeling that maybe I'm not good enough because there was no one there to love me or to tell me they loved me, even though my parents were there, but for a limited time every day. And I found myself getting stuck over and over again around achieving big goals. You spoke to me about publishing. You have to figure out how to ask people to pay you. And growing up in the kibbutz, we didn't have money. We didn't have to pay for anything. Someone took care of everything. So the first time I held money in my hand was when I was 7 years old. So I had to work on all my patterns, all my thoughts, to figure out how to grow my business. And I had to deal with my feelings of fear, shame, guilt, victimhood, and release them in order to move forward. So I was able to do that for myself. And that led me to want to help others, because this is very common. And where people get stuck is where they are confused. There was a message somewhere that told them X, Y, Z, and there's reality. And reality is that they're good and they're smart and they can figure out anything they want. But the message or the thought that is already implemented in them is very different. So it's confusing, and they get scared and they get stuck.
Wow. That is so, oh my goodness. Once that fear strikes you, then you run back to that familiar, even as you said, it doesn't serve you any longer, but I have found myself scurrying right back there until one day enough was enough. And no, that's a lie. Oh my goodness. This is good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's a lie. That's a big word right there. Remember that your thoughts are a lie, and treat them that way.
They are. That's a quote. I will be quoting you on that. I hope everybody is learning as much as I am. This is not something that you learn overnight. It's something that you practice, something that you become conscious of, correct?
Never overnight. Years and years of practice. And you have to make a commitment. You have to commit to doing the work. Otherwise, you're going to stay that 6 years old or 5 years old child that you were. And do you really want a 5 years old to make decisions for you right now? So you have to do the work, and it takes time.
That tells a lot about why some people act the way that they do. I mean, wow, that's saying a lot. You speak about doing the work, Allie. Real quick, can you tell us what it's like when you go into a corporation and you work with the people there in those corporations? Where do you start? What is that like? I guess I'm throwing a bunch of questions at you because I'm just really curious. First of all, what makes the corporation invite you to come in and bring this information? Then how is it received? And thirdly, how do you present this information to people so that it is applicable and they can start working on their emotional resiliency?
So, companies, corporations, organizations, all of them, they have the same problem, which is people are, they're losing work days. They're losing productivity because there's so much emotional baggage. Especially now that people work from home and remote work is here to stay. And so much more is surfacing when you're at home and your kids around you. And you're maybe stressed out because that's not your regular work environment. So what do you do about that? And people are people, and they can't leave, even if there is an office, and we will go back to offices at some point. You can't leave your emotional baggage at home. You bring it to work. If you had a big fight with your spouse, if your teenager said something, or whatever it is, you had something going on with your parents, whatever it is, you bring it to work. So that affects productivity. And organizations need that kind of help, what to do about it, how to manage people's emotions. And for too many years, let me say too many years, there was this status quo that emotions and work doesn't belong together. Yeah. But it's a false, it's a false belief, because we can't not bring emotions to work. And people were just trying to put on their poker face and look as if they're not bringing that baggage into work. So now I'm really happy about it. More and more organizations are open to really deal with that issue and to teach their leaders, because I'm working with leaders in organizations to teach them what to do to be able to help the employees and themselves as well to deal with all those emotions. So if you need to cry, what do? It was not acceptable, or it is not yet acceptable to cry at work, but it's very human. So the first part of your question was, how do you do that? I always start by listening. Listening is if you take something out of this conversation, take listening. Because if you listen to a person, they're able to access their intelligence, and they are able to come up with solutions, and they're able to adapt to new situations, because they're brainstorming with themselves, and we're all intelligent and good and creative. It's just our early experiences kind of put layers and layers of fog on our thinking. So I always start by listening to leaders and training them how to listen. And then there are other things and other exercises and many other techniques that I teach them. But listening is definitely number one, and it always works.
Wow. So people have a chance. It's kind of like talk therapy. If you feel that you are able to really talk this thing through, you'll pretty much be able to come up with the solution yourself. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah. So it's not only talk, and I would say it's more advanced, and it's not the right fit for every organization, but it's always better. When you talk, you gain access to your feelings. And then when you are able to feel the hurt or whatever it is, to let it out, whether it's crying or laughing or, shaking if you're afraid, whatever it is, when you let it out, you clear your mind and you're able to move forward and, make yourself a better career and advance yourself in the workplace.
Yes, there's definitely the need for emotional resiliency and to not feel ashamed about your emotions. It's like leave your emotions in your car when you're coming from the parking lot. You better start dropping all that baggage. That's that's what they want you to do, but it is almost impossible to do such a thing. So I'm glad that you're bringing this conversation to the forefront, working with the leaders. Management is tough. It's not for everybody. Mm-hmm. And if you can't listen, and I would imagine that when they're listening, listen with empathy also. Is that how important is that?
Yeah, I call it emotional listening. And that means that, first of all, you can't fake it. And that's why you have to learn and practice. You have to fully be there with your employee or your team and really listen and be present. Show them that you care. Because if you're going to look at your phone during the meeting, or you're going to do whatever it is that is not paying attention to the person you're listening to, it's not going to do it for them. So that you have to listen, and then you have, it is recommended, you don't have to, but it is recommended to allow them to express feelings, whether it is anger or fear. And if they need to cry, don't stop them, because crying is the healing. Crying is not the problem. And I'll give you an example that what we do as society with babies. So a baby cries, they get hurt, let's say, whatever it is, they need to eat, they got hurt from something, they cry, they release that energy, the hurt energy. But what we do, we say, shh, 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 don't cry, and we stop the healing process. So we all learn we all very good at practicing stopping ourselves from crying, from healing, from laughing. If you laugh too hard, they're going to send you, to a mental hospital. If you shake for too long, the same is going to happen. So we're not allowed to use the natural healing mechanism within us. So in the workplace, it is okay to listen to your employee. And if they cry for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, know that all you need to do is just be there and listen. You don't have to find solution to anything. You don't need to stop them. And it's hard. It's hard because the concept is very different than what we learn during the year. But the crying, the laughing, the shaking, the yelling sometimes is releasing the emotion and kind of opening the way to be more productive, to come up with creative solutions, etc.
Wow. That calls upon, that calls upon management, the leadership, even in your own home. It calls upon the head of any place to be okay with, first of all, their emotions, because you're not going to let somebody else cry or yell or stomp their foot or slam the door. You're not going to stand for any of that, because you're not going to understand it. And you're probably going to be a bit afraid that the person will have the audacity to even be that emotional with you, not understanding. So it begins with each and every one of us. If we allow ourselves to understand our emotional, where we are in that moment, then we can be there for somebody else in that moment. Allie, do you think that most women are really good at that? Because I'm thinking about our girlfriends. Oh my goodness, you go through a breakup or something like that, or a divorce, or just a myriad of things. I remember when my mom had breast cancer, just girlfriends just letting you cry and be there and not trying to say anything. Just, it was okay. Girlfriends just there in the moment. And if more of us could practice that, then we would really be better friends, better wives, better husbands, better employees.
Yeah, better people in general. But it's very, very hard. Although all of us have the ability to listen well, we're not really doing it. Because even a conversation, when we talk to someone, our brain immediately goes to comparison. What does that person say that fits my way of thinking or my experiences. And usually it doesn't take more than 30 seconds until you jump in and you say, oh my gosh, that happened to me as well. And let me tell you what to do, or giving advice. We're not used to shut up.
True.
And that's what we need to practice more, because when you give that space to someone, they're able to come up with solutions for themselves, for the workplace, for their family, whatever it is that they need to figure out.
I hear you saying, let that time be that person's time. And you don't take it upon yourself to come up with a bunch of solutions. Let that time be their time, and you just be in that space with them.
Exactly.
That's where we begin.
Exactly. Because the human connection is very important, just to be there with someone, allow them to think better. And our job is just to listen. Now, what I want to add is that it's very hard to listen if you don't know that you're going to get your fair share of listening, your listening time from someone else. Then we have so much emotional baggage that we have to let it out. That's why conversations are going back and forth. Oh, that happened to you. That happened to me. You did that. Oh, I did that. And listen to what happened, whatever it is. But if we know that the other person will listen to us, let's say I'm going to listen for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour, but when I'm done listening, I'm going to get my time. They're going to listen to me for 5, 10 minutes, an hour.
Wow.
It makes it easier to listen.
Wow. Okay. Structures. I'm thinking, my God, that's why we paid for therapy. I mean, when I left corporate, that's exactly what I had to do. I went flying to the therapist. It's just like, oh my God. And you're right. You need to talk and have somebody listen. And the therapist would interject different things, but you're right. It was always towards the end of the conversation. And sometimes she would do it. Sometimes she wouldn't. This is amazing. This is amazing. Emotional resiliency. Allie, how can people get in contact with you? Tell also your book. Tell us about your book. How do we purchase it?
So the book is The Emotional Business IQ, and there's all the information there about listening, about emotional discharge, and how it can help you become a better employee, a better business owner, a better leader. And right now, because of all that's going on, COVID-19, George Floyd, all the things that are happening in the world, I felt that the right thing to do is to give free access to my book. So you can go on my website, www.theebiq.com, and sign up and get this book for free, a PDF of this book for free, and it will teach you everything that you need to know. This knowledge needs to be out there in the world. And it's also available on Amazon.
Definitely on. And, with the holidays coming up and that type of thing, if a person downloads the free, thank you, first of all, the free ebook, then it would be good for them to go ahead and go to Amazon and gift a copy to someone, because you're right. This has to go out. And I mean, why buy a person another dress? Why buy? Everybody likes diamonds, but probably don't need another diamond when you need to care for yourself and help somebody care for themselves. So you're spot on. Thank you. And I'll be sure to put the link in the show notes. Also, are you speaking anywhere? I know that, most of us, we're not going to big places anymore, but are you running any workshops, anything like that you'd like to let us know about?
So right now, I don't have any public workshops. I have workshops inside organizations, so the public is not invited. But you can always contact me via my website or send me an email to ali@alinathaniel.com and invite me to work with you and maybe teach a workshop. So I'm available. I speak on different topics, emotional resilience and leadership. So you're welcome to contact me, and I'll be happy to assist you and to help you make your life and work life better.
Gosh, there's always that's always been a topsy-turvy type of thing. Work-life balance. How do you make it better? It's when I worked at a major corporation for 26 years, and it was always a juggling act. How do you balance this thing out? Thank you for coming today. Thank you for your gift to humanity. If we listen to you, we will all be better human beings. We will weather these storms, and wherever life takes us, then we will be responsible for being in the now with ourselves and with the people that we are in charge to listen to. Mm-hmm. I learned a lot, Allie, Nathaniel. I learned a lot. It looks like you have one. I'm looking at you. It looks like you have one more thought. You have one more thought that you want to add?
I do. That, connected to the early conversation we had, that it's always about the inner work, whether it's yourself or wanting to move something in the world, wanting to eliminate racism, do the inner work. Because unless you heal yourself, it's really hard to change things outside of yourself. So do the inner work. That's where the answers are.
Wow. We look for the next, and Allie Nathaniel has the answer, the inner work. Wow. I thank you. I thank you. I thank you, dear lady. You're going to have to come back. I want to hear more about how I want to hear about some results that have come up on this work, and later as the year goes on. As far as we know, COVID-19 is not going to go anywhere. We don't have a vaccine. We're all feeling some kind of way about that, and the economy is in a recession right now, so that is going to affect people. Some people are not going to have a job. So I want you to come back and just kind of give us an idea about how the nation, the world is moving along with this emotional resiliency, okay?
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Margot.
Wouldn't have it any other way. And I want to thank everybody for listening today. As I always say, you have to listen more than one time, and take Allie up on her generous offer. Get the book so that you can do the inside work. Take it up on yourself to start there so that you can change your world, and then that can expand out. I'm Margot Levette. I'll be back next week with a brand new episode. Her business, her voice, her conversation. I'll see you later. I want to thank you for listening to Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. Couple of things that I want you to do right now. Go to my website, pick up a copy of Her Business, Her Voice, Her Reinvention, how I went from game show hopping to international show host, author, and speaker in 1 year. Number 2, please freely listen to each and every episode. Share them out with your family, friends, the men in your lives. And then number 3, get in contact with me, one of the experts that have been on the show, because I want to make sure that you reinvent yourself. I'll be back next week with a brand new episode here on Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation.